In this lesson, we're going to go over radon, and I'll tell you what radon is and what we can do to test and clean it up if necessary. So radon is an odorless, colorless, tasteless, radioactive soil gas. And it comes from the decay of uranium, which is naturally present in most soils and waters in really small amounts. And as the uranium decays, it turns to radium, which then decays further and turns to radon gas. And this is where it starts to seep up to the top of the soil and can find its way into our houses. Now, it finds its way in through cracks in the foundation or different contact points, like where you would have a sump pump, for example. And as it finds its way into our homes, it can then be stuck in there if we're not airing them out and ventilating them properly. And then you can get this buildup of this radioactive soil gas. Now, radon is actually the leading cause of lung cancer among non-smokers. So it's a pretty serious, dangerous thing to have in your space. And radon's everywhere, really, in different amounts. It can really depend on your specific location. You can have a large variance in your levels from one house to the next, in one city to the next, and even your levels fluctuate quite a bit through the year with different seasons. So it can get sort of tricky to start to test your space and see, because there's different options for testing, and testing is really the only way to see what your levels are like. So one of the ways that I really recommend testing is with a continuous meter. So something like this from AirThings, it's going to run you a couple $100, but it's going to give you a lot of immediate feedback, and it'll give you some trends. So you'll be able to see what it's like after a day, after a week, after a month, after a year, and you can get a much better idea as to what your levels are like, because they do fluctuate so much through the seasons. Now, that's your most expensive option, but there are some cheaper ones. They just require capturing air for a certain amount of time and then being sent away to a lab for testing. So you can get a 3-month to 1 year test, and these are going to be the best options as far as the ones you send away for lab results, because it's capturing the air over a longer period of time. And I would suggest going for that longer period of time in that 3 months to a year. So trying to stay closer to a year. That's going to give you the best results. But you're not going to be able to figure out what those results are till the end of that time period. So another option is also a 3 to 7 day quick snapshot test. And you just hang this little packet in your home, make sure all the windows and doors are staying closed as much as possible. You capture air for that certain amount of time, write down the time on it, and you send away this sample to the lab, and they'll tell you what your levels are like for that week at least. That'll give you a good idea for that week, but you'll have to repeat those quick snapshot tests through different seasons in the year to give yourself a more accurate idea as to what your levels are like. So testing radon is really important to see what our levels are like. If you find that you are a little bit high in your radon levels, well, this is something that can be usually fixed by implementing some good ventilation, so some good air exchange practices in your house and bringing in lots of fresh air and not letting that gas just build up in closed spaces. Because our homes are built so tight these days, there's not a lot of natural airflow unless we're bringing it in by opening our windows. And basements are usually where it's going to build up the most. Now, a lot of times our basements are not getting aired out very often, or maybe the window structure that you have makes it difficult to air out your basement. So if this is the case, you've done some testing and you've got high radon, it's not easy to implement some ventilation in your space. There are other options. You can contact a radon specialist in your area, and there's going to be a few options. You can have someone seal up those contact points, so all the cracks in your foundation, where different areas where that gas can get into your space. There's also something called a sub-slab suction system. Fun thing to say. So these sub-slab suction systems are pipes that go underneath your home, and they can divert that radon gas out into a safe, just out into the air, so it's not building up within your space. Those are also called active soil depressurization systems as well. Same thing, but a different name. That's going to be a little bit more expensive, in a few $1,000s range. So radon, a super important aspect of air quality, one that doesn't get a lot of talk, but can be a huge impact in the quality of air in your space. Okay, next lesson, we're going to get into the electroclimate, and we're going to start to discuss what we mean when we say electroclimate, and then we'll start to delve into some strategies to clean up our space electrically.